Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I thought quite some big news. Springbok squad for the Island Tests have been announced. Very, very strong squad. 27 World Cup winners in the 39-man squad. A couple of newcomers, a couple of players dropping out. Certainly lots to discuss. And I think for the first time we realize this is the way Rossi and them are going to play we're not going to play, but this is the sort of selection strategy. And we'll go through it step by step and analyze. And what I've done is I've tried to put it into position that we can look at each position, the depth there is, and who's injured, who's on standby, and who will come into the squad as such, and who's probably unlucky as well. And at the end of the video, please do me a favor. Tell me who you think's unlucky, who you think should play, who should start. My probable feeling is that Rossi and them are going to probably play the strongest possible squad, but there's certainly some interesting selections poses for him. And where does he go for the younger player? Where does he go for the talent? And where does he stick with the tried and tested in the squad? Of course, there probably will be some injuries, so that'll definitely come into play. But yeah, let's have a look at the squad. And just for purposes of this video, I know some of these guys are moving between clubs sort of in the off-season. A guy like Andre Estes and Trevor Nyakani are coming to the Sharks, for instance. I've listed all the guys in the list you're going to see now at the clubs where they were this season. So if somebody has moved, please take that into account. Don't crucify me in the comments, but yeah, just for the ease of things, to keep it quite simple and where they were this season. And I think I've also taken out the sponsors' names and the South African franchises. I know they contribute a lot to the teams, but just for the purposes of this list, it's much easier to say Bulls, Sharks, Stormers, and Lions than it is to say the full names of the team. So, hopefully that doesn't bother you too much. So, let's get right into it. Okay, so let's start at prop. I think like loose forward, South Africa's getting to the point where we've got so many good props that the guys who haven't made it could literally walk into a lot of overseas sides, national sides at any point in their careers. It's astonishing to think after the demolition job that Wilco Louw did on Leinster, along with Gerard Steenekamp, that he isn't in the side, that he's on standby and he can't make the team. So lots of depth. Let's look. These are the props selected. So we got Thomas du Toit, who's had an absolute brilliant season at Bath. He's been exceptional. Was in the Premiership Player of the Season, and certainly deserves his place there. Was obviously not available for the Wales game. That's why he wasn't brought in. But he's back in the squad. Vincent Koch and Oxenchair, we know. Frans Malherbe. Trevor Nyakani comes back in. He wasn't available for the Wales game as well. And Gerard Steenekamp, who was with the Boks last year and made his debut against Argentina and really had a good first debut test. So he's back in the squad. Some real good powerhouse props there. And if you think that Stephen Kitshoff's still injured, he's not available, so he's one guy who can come back quite easily. And you're looking at that 7 props, top-class props, who probably would make any side in the world at the moment. And then we look at the guys on standby. I mean, it's insane to think the amount of depth we have. Wilco Louw, who's been exceptional for the Bulls, who I really thought, and my personal preference would have him somewhere in the squad, but you sort of ask yourself, where can he go? And who would you drop? Well, I mean, Wilco certainly deserves a spot, and I'm sure he'll come in pretty soon. Neethling Forshare, who got the most penalties of any prop. The Stormers Scrum won the most penalties in the URC. And then Tutuku and Chunu, who played this past weekend and certainly hasn't had a bad season either way. You've got 10 first-class props there. It's hard to think of anybody else who could come into the squad or any side that has the depth at prop in the scrum as like this at the moment. And I think we've got to realize we're really blessed at the moment in terms of the stocks we have up front. Moving to hooker, this is quite an interesting selection because you've got to sort of ask yourself, the first question you've got to ask yourself is what has become of Joseph Dweba's career? Is he still already in the Bok plans? Because he's now gone from, he was in the Bok squad last year. He didn't make the World Cup squad. They used Dion Fourie and Marco van Staden as the hookers when they had injuries. So he didn't come back. And he came back in now. He wasn't in in the match day 23 for Wales, and now has fallen out of the squad again. So that's one question you got to ask yourself. And if I'm Joseph Dweba, I'd probably be asking that question myself as well, especially with a guy like Andre Hikufente, who's suddenly around the squad and was in the squad for the Wales test, and who's now also on standby. You got to sort of wonder where your future is at the moment on that. He's obviously still a good top-class hooker, and there's obviously still a lot of belief in him. He's still playing well for the Stormers. But yeah, I think in terms of reality, but let's first look at everybody who's picked. Johan Grobler, the newcomer in the squad, certainly has been probably the most consistent hooker on the fringes in the last couple of seasons. Certainly, definitely deserves a spot. His Crobbies has been exceptionally consistent in his performances. He's a great jackler and really one of the stars of the Bulls team this season. Malcolm Marx, Bongi and Mbonambi, we both knew that they would be there. Jan-Hendrik Wessels is an interesting one, and we'll get to that. Stand by Andre Hikufente and Joseph Dweba. Just on Jan-Hendrik Wessels, it's quite obvious that the other three are going to play. Dion Fourie is no longer in the equation, and Johan Grobler is obviously seen as the third guy in the pecking list at the moment. But Jan-Hendrik Wessels is a supreme star at schoolboy level, played everywhere from lock to prop, and then moved to prop at the Bulls. Wasn't so much of a success, but he's still a youngster. And now he's moved to hooker, and he hasn't really played for a while. So that was quite a surprise. And the only thing I can think there is this is an investment for the future. Rusty and them see exactly what they have in him. They think he's a star for the next couple of years, and there's probably others which will come to in the squad that are like that. And he wants the opportunity to work with them. So I think we're probably going to see a lot more of Jan-Hendrik Wessels playing in the Currie Cup this year. But yeah, you certainly think that he eventually is being looked at as that sort of swinger role on the bench where he can play hooker or prop. And the Boks are looking to start developing him early. Of course, he is very young, so prop might be a bit of a stretch at this moment. But at some point, I'm sure they're going to get him up to that speed. So those are the hookers. Move into the second row. Locks, quite easy, this one, to have a look at, because there's so much talent. How many teams in world rugby could have Jean Klein and Louis de Jager injured, those type of quality locks, and still field the quality that the Boks have? We're looking at Eben Etzebeth, Salman Murat, Franco Morstedt, and Erge Sneymond. I think Salman's obviously came off the bench against Wales, was pretty good. Erge coming back in, he's a double World Cup winner, as are the other two, Eben and Franco, and those will be the engine room against Ireland. I think also the one unlucky guy who's not in the squad is probably Ruan Nokia. Extremely consistent, high work rate, really great player as well, but just missing out, and probably not quite what they want at this stage. I'm sure he'll come back into the squad at some point. He is capped for South Africa already, so I think Ruan is a bit unlucky. But saying that, Ruben van Heerden, who's on standby, has an excellent season for the Stormers. Tireless work rate, made probably most tackles of any South African player in the competition, and certainly deserves the recognition. Whether he'll come in at some point waits to be seen, but you can see the thinking of Rassie, where you've got the front line in every position, in fact. The front line players, the guys on standby and the guys injured. And you can see when you put all those together, the type of depth that the Springboks now possess. Come now to the place where it's the most difficult to get into the squad as such. And if you look at the depth at loose forward, man, the Boks have got a lot at the moment. Just looking at who is selected, Pepsi Buthelezi, Ben Jason Dixon, who made his debut against Wales, Pieter-Steph du Toit. Obviously, there's Siya Kolisi's back from France. He wasn't available for the Wales game. Evan Roos, Kwagga Smith, Marco van Staden comes in from the Bulls, and Jasper Wiese, who's currently suspended. Then on standby, Jean-Luc Dupré, who's played before, Selimpilo Gumede, who had a great season with the Bulls, but can't make the Bulls starting lineup at the moment, but is obviously very highly rated by the Boks. And Elrich Lowe, who had an exceptional season, probably in most people's team of the tournament as blindside flank in URC, but can't make the Boks either. And then Cameron Honeycomb, who injured his hamstring during the final, and from what we hear is out for 6 weeks, so he can't make it. But I'm sure he'll be in the Boks reckoning as soon as he's fit again. So yeah, I would have expected Cameron Honeycomb to be in that list. I think he probably would have been if he didn't get injured. But you look at the depth in forwards there. I mean, Sekulisi's obviously back. There's obviously a question mark whether he'll still captain the team. Being based overseas, Rossi has said he wants his captain to be based locally. So we'll have to wait and see if that happens. You look at a guy like Ben Jason Dixon, who's really come in. He had a great season with the Stormers and is now in the mould of Pieter-Steph du Toit. He's looking at the backup for Pieter-Steph du Toit. Evan Roos had a decent game against Wales as well. He's had a good season as well, so he's one of the prime candidates for the number 8 role. Kwagga Smith is still around there. Jasper Wiese is obviously going to come back at some point. And if you look at the other guys who in that squad, Pepsi Buthelezi, I think, probably needs to up his work rate. He's had a good season as well, but there's loads of competition to loose forward. And look at those standby guys. Any of those three can probably come in again and walk into the box squad, and they wouldn't be letting the squad down. So lots of depth there at loose forward as well. Scrumhalves, well, the box took 4 Scrumhalves to the World Cup. They've now selected 4 again. Interesting, though, that I thought maybe they would only go with 3, but it's obviously for training purposes, and they feel it's a specialist position. It's probably good to have an extra guy in the squad. Faf de Klerk, there is the number 1 choice. Still, Kobus Reinach's come back into the squad from Montpellier, has had a great season with Montpellier, so he certainly is not done yet. Grant Williams played on the weekend against Wales, was pretty good, and has been also gives them an extra option on the wing. It certainly deserves to be there as well. Jalen Hendricks is injured at the moment. And then Morne van den Berg stays with the team, which is interesting because there's no place for Ambrose Papier. And I also think that he's one guy who certainly has had such a great season that you would have thought there may be a spot for him as well. But it seems that he's not in the mix at the moment, and he's not likely to come into the mix. So it'll be interesting to find out what's the situation there. And I'm sure as we go on in the season, we'll get a word with some of the Bok coaches, and we'll hear what the story is there as well. But he'll be very disappointed, especially after the season that he has had. The other guy who I think we must mention as well, who, same as Jesus Dwever, has to ask some questions about his career at the moment, where it's going, and what he needs to do to get back in the squad is Herschel Yankees. He's obviously still playing for the Stormers, still playing well, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him over the coming season. Is he out of the Bok frame totally? And interesting, and it just maybe again that there's too much competition. If you look at every position, you look at the guys in the saddle, the guys on standby, and the guys injured, there's certainly enough depth without these guys. So they've got to do something special to get themselves back in the team. At Flyhalf, that's now the talking point that always comes up. Number 10, it's a huge one coming up. I don't expect anybody other than Andre Pollard to play against Ireland. I think he's the man in the saddle. I think he's the incumbent. Ice in the veins. We all saw in the World Cup how he did. But there's 5 Flyhalves, the same 5 Flyhalves around who were selected in the initial squad are around. 2 of them drop out this squad. Jordan Hendricks and Sia Masuku, both of them. Jordan made his debut against Wales, had a decent game, but a bit nervy at times. But certainly, wasn't exceptional, but I don't think it was too bad. But a lot of pressure on him as well. He falls out. So Mani Lebok, who's with him at the box, and Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu is in the squad. Sasha had an exceptional debut as well. Certainly looks the part for Test rugby. Came on also very cool, ice in the veins. He can also play anywhere in the back line. He's been seen as a future Springbok 10. So I think the more he plays and the more he gets a chance now, he'll definitely be in the mix quite a bit. So the Boks are looking at him. But there's going to be a lot of competition there. And I know there's a lot of fans of Sia Masuku who probably feel that he should be there. But he just has to bide his time. I think he might get a chance against Portugal. Moving into the midfield, you can see where the Boks plans are going here as well. They've got the 3 World Cup winners. In fact, the 4 World Cup winners in the midfield as well. The Kanyo Am is fit again. He's back in the squad. Damien Delenda, Andre Estes, and Jesse Krill, or any combination of those guys could probably pitch up on any day and give the Boks a world-class midfield. On standby, we have Ethan Hooker and Henko van Wyk, who are injured. Now, Ethan Hooker has obviously had a meteoric rise. Everybody sees him as a future Springbok. He's certainly a player who's come onto the scene, burst onto the scene. Probably hasn't had as much game time as you would think he would have had before he's in the Springbok squad. But there's obviously a lot of talent that the Bok coaches see there, and they want time to work with him. Same as Jan Hendrik Wessels, you see that same sort of idea. Same as Sasha. They want to get to know the guy, have a chance to work with him, and obviously mold him in what they want from him. And I don't think that's a bad thing, having guys like that working with the guys as often as possible. So that's the midfield. Moving on to the wings, and yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, it's almost like if you don't have a scrum cap, can you be a winger in the Springbok squad? No, anyway, I'm joking. But we've got some absolutely fabulous wingers. Edward van der Merwe, who was the man of the match, he's got a bit of a shoulder niggle at the moment. But certainly put his hand up against Wales, and it's hard to drop him. So he's in the squad, but just looking at who was selected, Kurt Arendse comes back in after his miraculous return for the Bulls. This past weekend, he wasn't as good as he could have been, obviously because Glasgow's dominance there, but he certainly is fit again. He can play. We know what he can do for the box, and we know what he can do if you give him some space. Cheslin Colby, who had a knee niggle as well and was out of the box squad and back in just before they left for Wales, has been given some time to recover. Rossi has said he is touch and go for the Ireland series, but they obviously feel that he should be right by then. So he's there. Makazole Mapimpi, who scored a try this weekend, was pretty decent against Wales as well. Ever the battle horse, never really going to let the box down. He's there as well. And Edward van der Merwe, obviously deserves his spot after winning man of the match. Interestingly, though, Suleiman Hartzenberg is coming on standby. I think that's probably because Caelan Moodie is injured, but he's certainly one for the future, and I know he's very highly rated by the box. So that's a lot of depth on the wings there, and especially when you think some of the fullbacks can play wings, some of the centres can play wings like Jesse Kriel. We move on to the fullbacks. Apelele Fassi was great under the high ball on Saturday. Certainly did the box no harm. Maybe he just has to look at his technique with that boot that he keeps in the air. It cost him a yellow card on Saturday, but hopefully it won't cost him too much more than that. And they'll work on that. I'm sure somebody's had a word with him. Willie Leroux was very much missed by the Bulls this weekend, just in terms of getting the backline direction. Certainly a player that can help any backline, and the Springbok with the most assists and tries as well. So it's good to see he'll be over his concussion and should be available for selection. Then I probably favour him to start against Ireland. He is on test number 94, so I think he's looking for that 100 caps mark. I'm sure they have him there. Falling out of the squad for now is Kieran Horn. He's gone back to the Lions. He's on standby. Certainly also had a great season as well. And they're knocking for the future. Another young guy coming through who's really seen as a Springbok for the future, and hopefully will be back soon. And then the other guy who's injured at the moment is Damian Willemse. He can play anywhere in the back line. He's the incumbent. He's the guy who kept Willie Leroux out of the World Cup final. And if he's back, he'll walk back into that squad right now, and he's certainly a talented player. So lots of depth, loads of depth by the Springbok team. What a squad. That's a really powerful squad. And Ireland are certainly going to be challenged. The Boks want to win this series, and 27 of the World Cup winners, you can see the Boks are very serious about selecting their strongest side for this test series. Who do you think should have been in? Who do you think wasn't in? I think the other guy who's unlucky at fullback is Tyrone Green. Had a great season with Harlequins. Certainly think that he would walk into many international sides worldwide. But there's only so many places, and there's only so many spots for guys to come in. So I suppose that's always the challenge. You'll have your favourites there, or your favourite might have missed out. But certainly there's a lot of competition in Springbok rugby and a lot of depth at the moment. So that's a hugely talented Springbok squad for the Ireland series. Let me know what you think, who you think should have been in or should have been out, who you rate and who you reckon will come into the squad when it comes for Portugal as well. We're a bit early to speak about that. A lot can happen in the next month, but that's certainly intention by the Boks squad to select their strongest, and they know the challenge that's coming at the moment. Ireland have beaten them the last 3 times. Ireland have won in New Zealand. They certainly aren't going to be a team that's going to roll over. They certainly want to come here and win. So the Boks know they've got a fight on their hands, and some new coaches. The Boks are probably going to come up with a couple of new things as well. But it'd be interesting to hear your comments. I do read all of them. So it's great to see, and thank you for watching this. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. And yeah, there'll be a lot more of these videos as we go through the season. But for now, cheers.